Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Arsenal transfer show, our daily 8 a.m. show every single day at UK time, where we go through all the latest Arsenal transfer news and information to keep you guys up to date with all the latest information, of course, and get your thoughts and feelings in the chat box, trying to break some ITKs, try to make some sense of what's going on and give you guys as much detailed education on each Arsenal transfer target as possible. Apologies that I sound slightly out of breath. Again, it is Friday, so I've done the morning 5K. It is slightly cooler than it usually and has been this week, which has been a blessing, it has to say, but it has still been ridiculously warm. So apologies for the sweaty face. But we are going to get on to talking about Arsenal transfer news to try and distract myself from still how hot it is. And yes, I saw plenty of you leaving comments on yesterday's video of where you are in the world and how much hotter it is where you are. I get it. I understand. But it is so much hotter in the context of how I'm used to the temperature here. So I hope you are. I hope you're doing good, and I hope you're feeling a lot less hot and sweaty compared to me. Let's move on to our first story, people, and talk about some interesting news that's come out from Arsenal, of course, regarding some of our youngsters. 5 of our youngsters have been offered new professional contracts. You've got Taylor-Hart that you've probably heard of before. We've got Daniel Oyegoke. You've got Nathan Butler-Oyedeji, Ovi Eyeheri, and Maseed Agungba. All of these guys have been given, or rather offered, new contracts. It's not actually sure whether or not they've accepted them, but we're aware that they've been handed them out. They've been given the new contracts. To whether they accept them or not, I suppose, is still yet to be seen, but they are the ones that have been given the new contracts. But there are some players that have left. Of course, from the senior squad, we're already very much well aware of the likes of Ødegaard, of Dani Ceballos, of David Luiz. All of these guys have now left the club. And I think that when we are going to obviously realise that we've lost. They were non-homegrown players, I suppose, so that's a good thing. But you've also lost Matt Ryan, but we may be expecting him to come back. And from the women's team, Leonie Meyer has also left as well. So best of luck to her with wherever she goes on for. But in terms of the under-23s, Levi Lang, Joseph Alowu, Luke Flang, and Jason Srara have all been released as well. Alowu spent some time on loan this season, but clearly has been deemed not to the level required at Arsenal, unfortunately. But best of luck to all of those guys that have left, and to Mayer as well. Wish her the best of luck too in regards to where they go on with the rest of their careers. Fingers crossed it's somewhere good and not to the detriment of Arsenal Football Club. Anyway, moving on to our main kind of the transfer stories of the day. Going into, first of all, Matteo Guendouzi. We started off quite a few of these shows lately with news on Guendouzi. Some interesting stuff came out yesterday. Supposedly Arsenal are playing very, not hard to get, I was going to say, but hard ball, I suppose, is with Guendouzi, trying to get a very decent, sizable fee for the youngster, which is good in a way, because obviously we don't want Arsenal to just, roll over and accept a low fee and a low bid for him. But Marseille are becoming slightly agitated by the amount of money that Arsenal are asking for. Apparently, and I've heard no truth in this rumour, so do take it with a pinch of salt, that there is the possibility that Guendouzi has an additional year option in his current Arsenal contract, which has given Arsenal a little bit more weight. But again, I've heard nothing about that. I've only heard stuff to the contrary, that it is just a one-year deal. But if that is the case, then of course that would mean that Arsenal have a lot more power in their negotiations for Guendouzi, knowing that they wouldn't lose him necessarily for free next season. But he himself has said in interviews that he just has a year left on his deal. So unless he's unaware of the situation, which I wouldn't put past him, then he is going to be going from Arsenal, if not this summer, then next. But it's good to see Arsenal are trying to get a decent fee for the kid, someone who's not going to be with us next season. Sead Kolasinac is another one that looks like he's going to be going, but he isn't going to be going back to Schalke. They announced yesterday, along with Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, the Dutch striker, that both of them will be leaving the club and will not be returning. Of course, they were in the side that got relegated from the Bundesliga last season, and Kolasinac's high wages are just not something that they can keep up with. And for the benefit of the economic side of the club, they just cannot afford to keep hold of it. This sparked a lot of debate on Twitter yesterday, because I put a tweet out, purely a discussion-based tweet, saying if there are no other sensible options is it worth just keeping Kolasinac on for a year? And what I meant by no other sensible options, I mean, if we can't bring any youngster in, if we can't bring in any experienced player in, if we can't sign any cover whatsoever, would you be okay with him staying for a year? And still the overriding consensus was no, that people would not want to see him stay. They would rather see us deputise with the Granit Xhaka playing there. If he was to say, they'd rather see Bukayo Saka play there, promote someone like Joel Lopez. I do disagree. I do think that in the case of this, if it's a case of there is, and I mean the literal last possible result, like that we've exhausted all other options. In that case, having Kolasinac there over like a youth player, having there over, say, moving Bukayo Saka back, because to be honest, I really like Bukayo Saka in a more attacking role. If there is no other option and we know that Arteta isn't going to switch to a back three, then I'm okay with it, at least for 6 or 5 months until the January window. All his mates have gone, like Mustafi, Ozil, Guendouzi is probably going to be going as well, so that's not going to be a factor. But still, it does look like he probably is going to go, which I'm certainly more in favour of. Fenerbahce has been touted as a possible place, but it's a very easy link to make, considering Ozil has already gone there. Lazio were previously interested. I think Arsenal are really going to struggle to move him on for a fee. I think you're going to see possibly a termination of a contract once again, just to get his high wages off the wage bill, and then he can move to a club, get a decent signing on fee, and play for them next season. I can't see him staying. But if it's the absolute last possible result, other than playing Granit Xhaka again at left back or another midfielder at left back, then it's probably the better option if Kieran Tierney was injured. But Arsenal should be doing all they can to go out and sign cover in that position. So that rounds off kind of the possible outs. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Jacobson says his contract ends at the 2023 season. Kolasinac is, it doesn't run out this season. He's got a year left on his deal and will run out. It will run out at the start of the 22-23 season. So it'll be out in 2022. Langer says, I really think we should sell Willock with a cheeky buyback clause. Very interesting. Toby says, what about Maitland-Niles at left back? It depends on his situation. I think that is one that we can get a decent fee for this summer. So that is one that I think we'll be looking rather to move on and try and get a decent fee for him. We'll have to wait and see. Manu says, how Arsenal managed to do good business in getting in the right back of the season for a free and still losing money on him. Suraj, or rather left back, Suraj, let him go for free. He's a bad egg, says AFC till I die. King says, hope you're well, Tom. Hope you are well too, mate. Much appreciated. Wesley says, if we can't land better backup left back than a backup left back, the situation is marginal problem for us compared to where we are as a club. It certainly does. It's a little bit indicative, I suppose, of where we are. It tells us what kind of club we are if we can't get in a cover left back that's better than Kolasinac. Benny says, who else noticed the leak stopped when he left the club? Yes, he wasn't the only one, of course, who did leave during that period. That is important to remember. Jacob says, no talking about Guendouzi. Mitchell says, you're talking about Guendouzi in terms of his contract. Yeah, we don't know if it is 2023. The most legitimate sources are saying it is 2022, but there could be an option in that deal. Cedric says, Tom had been good in left back when he was used there. I'd rather keep him over Kolasinac. Suro says he'd rather see Saka play at left back. Alan says Kolasinac is not good. We will get minimum 10 million. Wow. I mean, those two aren't really correlated. I don't think for someone who's not good. Sorry, you mean not bad. Completely read that wrong. We will get 10 mil. I doubt you'll get 10 mil for someone on that wage with that length of contract left, to be honest. I think that is optimistic. Let's move on to Luiz Campos. Now, of course, Luiz Campos is the former director of football from Lille. You probably saw this story break yesterday. We have covered this a lot in a dedicated show that we did yesterday on who is Luiz Campos with the help of expert Jeremy Smith. So if you want to find out a lot more about him, you can find out all of that in our dedicated show that released yesterday. So that's already out on the channel. But what I would say is that please do go and read around about this guy and the news, because this story changed within the space of a few hours yesterday. I mean, just looking online now, we were in a situation whereby initially Football London and Chris Wheatley was saying that Arsenal were interested in bringing him on in kind of an unofficial kind of role. And then just about an hour later, Chris Wheatley deleted that tweet and deleted the article and changed things, or rather didn't delete the article, but amended it, so that it started saying that Arsenal had distanced themselves from these claims. So, take it out with a massive pinch of salt, is probably fair to say. But it is interesting that not even some of the people that we rely upon for information are getting this right at the moment, showing that it is a very volatile situation this summer, and we can probably expect more things not necessarily to be on the ball, as is the case with something we're going to talk about very soon. Speaking of Noussair Mazraoui, the Ajax right back that we were linked to earlier on this week, these links have persisted. They haven't gone away. Of course, the links with Zeki Celik that came out from Simon Collins from London Evening Standard, that kind of drowned out the Mazraoui links, but they have lingered on. I've seen them pop up in a couple of places this week as well. And for that reason, we are still going to go ahead with a tactical breakdown on him, which is going to be coming out probably around midday-ish today, UK time. So that'll be your second show of the day. And that is going to be a focused comparison between Mazraoui, looking at how he compares to Zeki Celik, to Max Aarons, and probably to Hector Bellerin as well, unless you guys have got any other suggestions. But we always try to make sure we compare them to at least one current Arsenal player in his position and players that we have been linked to, not just any other player that's out there. So we're probably going to compare him to Aarons, Celik, and Bellerin is probably going to be the comparison that we look at. So, final story of the day, and the main story of the day, of course, Emi Buendia. So, this is a story that obviously you saw break yesterday, probably around early to late evening UK time. The Arsenal had reportedly had a bid of the region of £30 million rejected, as had Aston Villa supposedly as well, had a bid of £30 million put in, and we imagine that was also rejected. Buendia is at the moment away with the Argentina national side. He's away, ironically, with Emi Martinez of Aston Villa. So Agent Martinez doing the hard graft for Villa out there, trying to convince him. But what we did see is from obviously our good friend and the ITK king at the AFC Bell tweeting out that Arsenal had originally, with poor Twitter translation, accepted, a bid had been accepted, which is quite funny because it did actually kind of weed out some of the fake ITKs that you may have seen on social media. One being, I think, is it Joe the Gooner? I think there's someone called that on Twitter yesterday that got absolutely rumbled. They've now changed their name to something else, so do be careful about who you follow. We actually did. I've written a piece on how to avoid kind of getting fooled by ITKs. I'll send it to you. If you want to DM me, I'll send you the link to it. But we did talk about it on another show, and it's up on 101 right now. But it's it's definitely kind of weeded out a lot of the ITKs, which is very funny. But actually, what isn't funny is trying to work out who is right and who is wrong. Because not only did we see, I think it was, I'm not actually going to credit the website that initially tweeted out because for obvious reasons. But then Chris Wheatley, again of Football London, did tweet out saying, as mentioned by so-and-so, that Arsenal have put a bid in of £30 million that for Buendia, along with Aston Villa. And then we have seen also, so let me show you that tweet, in fact, because I did put it up on the slideshow. So as first reported by Charlie Wyatt, Arsenal made a formal offer in the region of £30 million for Buendia. I'm told there's no rush for a deal to get done and that Buendia remains focused on his national team duties. Aston Villa have also made an offer for Buendia and talks will continue with Norwich over the coming days. This was then contradicted by local reports coming out of Norfolk from the Pinken, who is a local Norfolk-based application outlet is probably the better word. And they said that no bids yet, but interest is hotting up for Emi Buendia. So what's actually happening right now? Like, what is going on with this deal? It seems there's a lot of contradicting reports from an Arsenal perspective. All of the Arsenal side of things and the Birmingham side of things as well from the Aston Villa are all saying that bids have been submitted. And then from the Norwich side, the news is that they haven't been submitted. So there is a lot of contradiction going on right now. Who is right? Who is wrong? Well, I mean, from the perspective of Arsenal, it came on a bad day for Football London because, of course, the original article about Luiz Campos that came out turned out to be not correct. And so then following that up with this article on the same day has raised a lot of questions. But they are still a very reputable website that I would certainly take a lot of legitimate information from. people get stuff wrong. It's just the way that things go. It's just the way that journalism works. Sometimes you get false information. Sometimes you just hear certain things. Sometimes you have to get a story out. But I would still accredit Chris Wheatley as a reliable source of information. And so therefore I'm fairly confident in trusting that side of things, but always important to take things with a grain of salt as per. So I'm interested to get your thoughts around the situation. I didn't expect Arsenal to get a £30 million bid for Emi Buendia accepted. It would have been very, very surprising to see that happen. I think they're going to be looking closer to the £40 million mark, but we have heard from Stuart Webber, the guy behind the scenes at Norwich, that they would be looking for a figure with a 3 in front of it. Whether that was for Max Aarons or for Buendia is still yet to be seen. But there is the possibility that Arsenal could get a bit more of a cut price deal for him. But that is obviously being a bit scuppered by the fact that Aston Villa are also in for Buendia right now, which is making things very difficult to kind of try and sort out, let's say. Let's have a look and see what you guys are saying in the chat box. Rita Yan says, morning, Tom. In your opinion, how close is Aziz to the first team spot? I think you'll probably see him in cup games, mate, next season. That's probably my thoughts on him. So Hill says, Tom, can you expand on the tweet you put out if Villa get Buendia over us? Yes, sure, I can do that. So yesterday I tweeted out, let me just go onto my Twitter to make sure I don't quote myself wrong. Imagine doing that. By the way, we hit 18,000 followers on Twitter yesterday, so a massive thank you for everyone that's dropping us a follow and following us. There's a good retweet from Dan Critchlow on there if you want to go and read that. But I tweeted out saying, well, seeing if Arsenal let Aston Villa beat them to this deal for Buendia, it will certainly tell us a lot. And what I meant by that is that Arsenal are clearly interested in Buendia. Martin Odegaard was the number one target. That's now moved on because it's not possible. Real Madrid are not letting him go. Buendia was the next man on Arsenal's list, and they are clearly pursuing a deal for Buendia. If Arsenal allow Aston Villa to beat them to this target, it shows a lack of ambition. It shows for me that Aston Villa are certainly on the same playing field as Arsenal, that they are looking to overtake Arsenal. I also tweeted out a little bit later on, I said, by the way, Aston Villa are doing the right thing here. They are a club that want to oust Arsenal and looking to target the same players in a good strategy, provides further context to the situation that we have found ourselves in. Aston Villa are 100% should be looking at Arsenal as a team where they're going, right, who are Arsenal's targets? Because we're going to go and try and get those guys. Who are Arsenal's players? You may have seen a loose link to Emile Smith-Rowe being linked to Villa yesterday. Villa are a club that are looking at Arsenal as a team they think they can overcome, a team they think they can move ahead of in Premier League standings. So if they can go and target the same transfer targets as us, they are doing things in the right way. And it would make a proper statement if they went out and got Emi Buendia ahead of Arsenal. They've got money. They've got good backing. They've shown that over the last couple of transfer windows that they're willing to sell, and that they're willing to get a lot of they're willing to bring in a lot of quality players to add to the team. And that doesn't actually mean that they would be selling Jack Grealish. They want to add Buendia to Jack Grealish. On that right-hand side, they obviously signed Bertrand Traore last season. It's not necessarily gone to plan. They had Ross Barkley in at number 10, who's gone back to Chelsea from loan. Buendia could play in either of those two positions for them behind Ollie Watkins. All of a sudden, you've got a very interesting front line if you've got Buendia and Grealish supporting Ollie Watkins. At Arsenal, you'd hope that they could sell him a better project, a better vision, a better likelihood that they're going to see them get back into European football with the pedigree that the club has. But if Arsenal allow Aston Villa to come ahead of them in the Buendia chase, then that is a very, very concerning moment for the club. AB, so smart of Arteta to sell Emi Martinez so that he can convince Buendia to come to Arsenal. Genius. Yeah, I'm not sure that's the right way around, AB. If anything, he's going to be doing the opposite. So there you go. Kian, one of our fantastic members, says, Tom, if Buendia goes to Villa and not Arsenal, would you get Ramsey back to help Smith-Rowe? No, I wouldn't. I'm very much an advocate of once the player's gone, they're gone. Move on. He's also, I think he's now 30. He's 29, 30. So no thanks. Absolutely no chance. Thanks, Johnny. Much appreciate the support. Please drop a like on the video, guys. There's over 500 of you watching, so I really would appreciate if all of you could drop a like. Could be great. OT says, do you think they're going to get Emile Smith-Rowe? No, I'm very surprised if they did. He's in contract talks with Arsenal right now, so that is something that I expect to be announced in the next couple of months, maybe even weeks, that Emile Smith-Rowe has signed a new deal with the club. Mick Lucas, morning, Tom from Sunny Island. Who would you prefer at right back? I'm very much a fan of Zeki Celik, mate. I think he is the person that Arsenal should be looking to go for. At Lille was a very, very smart piece of business to get him in for 15 million euros. Other than that, Max Aarons, obviously, but he is a lot more expensive, more than double the price. So that's something that you need to factor in. But Zeki Celik is a very, very good player that Arsenal should be interested in. Social says, I see the Umtiti is back with links. Did you cover this already? No, Social, I didn't. I haven't seen any links to Umtiti. I will double check that for you now, just to see if there is anything cropping up regarding him. His injury record is not great. He's also, I believe, is he left-footed? So he would be playing on the other side. Let me just double check. I don't want to get that wrong. Let's have a look. He is left-footed, so it wouldn't make too much sense, really, to go for him when you've already got Gabriel and Pablo Marie, and he's 27, so he's the same age as Marie. I wouldn't be going for Umtiti, to be honest. I haven't seen any links so far with Arsenal. I'm scrolling down my feeds, and I've seen absolutely nothing. So no, Social, sorry, I've not seen anything to do with that. Alistair says, Saliba will start next season. He's got a good chance to start next season because Gabriel's going to be away with the international side. Of course, he doesn't really... I don't imagine Saliba's future is going to be on the left. He has played on the left a lot for Nice this season, but I think it's more so going to be on the right. It depends if Arsenal sign any centre-backs this summer. But I think he's got a good chance of getting some minutes next season, and I hope he does. Dano says, so what you are saying is that even the trusted sources have no idea what's going on. I'm saying that there's a lot of contradictory reports out there right now with this Buendia story, and it could go either way. I have messaged a couple of people. I've heard nothing back so far. I'll probably be able to update you tomorrow if I do hear anything whatsoever. But as I say, I've got my stuff that I'm used to is nothing regarding Buendia's and Championship and Norwich. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, I know what's going on with the Buendia stuff, because I don't. I can only try and send a couple of texts and find out, but there's nothing I've heard so far. So yeah, apologies about that. I do try and tell you if there is anything, but no, there's, Wheatley is a good one to stay tuned to, but Charles Watts is probably your go-to man regarding all of the Arsenal stuff. Sasha says, I thought you were in the circle of trust, Tom. There's no circles of trust with me in right now, mate. Absolutely none. Jasmeet says, Haaland proven to be the top 3 academies in England right now. Scrubber Steve says, do you think that if given the choice, Buendia would choose Villa over Arsenal? I'd be very doubtful if he had the straight choice and it was the same deal, same money, same everything, that he would go for that. But it depends how much money Aston Villa are going to offer him to try and convince him to come to the club. So he also says, Tom, what's the situation of Riqui Puig at Barcelona? Should we try and get him? No, well, Ronald Koeman is a big fan of Riqui Puig, so I'm not sure that you'd be able to get him. I also don't know if he would get into the Arsenal team right now. He's still very much unproven. He's still got a lot of development to do, and I think he would cost you a fee that wouldn't be representative of his current quality. Certainly representative as maybe his potential future. But he is liked at Barcelona. But I very much doubt that Arsenal are going to be going in for Riqui Puig. That was a link that kind of came up, I think, around January time. But no, nothing on that so far. Konstantin says, Max Aarons is homegrown, young, and attack-minded. He is the one we need. And Basuma with Partey can cover him going for attacks. I do hope we sign Buendia and Aarons. Zach Stacey says, thoughts on Patrick Van Aanholt? He would be a free transfer and is homegrown. If we can't get Ryan Bertrand, Patrick Van Aanholt, I think, is a very decent backup option for Kieran Tierney. Dumza TV says, Tom, don't you think we should try and go for Koulibaly this summer? He's experienced, a leader. He would be very good commanding defender next to Gabriel and won't hinder Saliba's development. Do you not think he would hinder Saliba's development? I think he's late 20s. I don't know how Saliba's getting into the team if Koulibaly is necessarily going to be there. He's an experienced player. It's not signing someone like a Tapsoba who you could necessarily use 22 that you would see more rotation. So I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure on that one. I'm just going to mute this because I feel like my head is so close to the screen. Do you know what I mean? Pranjal says, are we still interested in Ruben Neves? Who would you prefer, Basuma or Neves? 100% I prefer Basuma. But Neves, I don't know if the links are persistent. The only links that we saw was about 2 weeks ago when we were told his price from Wolves would be around 35 million. But we've heard nothing since then regarding concrete talks or interest or bids from Arsenal in that region as of yet. Social says there is a Bosnian that could be a backup Tierney. Yes, the less said about that is probably the better, to be honest. Jasmeet says reports say Barca looking at Emerson as a key component moving forwards. Could we try and go for Sergino Dest? I mean, they've signed Emerson now, of course. They could still sell him on. It is never a guarantee that he'd stay because it's a very cheap fee that they got him for. But I think they look at Sergino Dest as certainly someone that can cover in multiple areas, be it left back, right back, defensive midfield. So I'm not so sure that they would be willing to let Dest go. I think they see him as very much the future and someone that's going to provide a lot of utility and cover for many positions in their team. So no, I don't think Sergino Dest is a realistic option for Arsenal right now. Arjan says, do we have any confirmed signings for next season? As of this very moment, officially, Arjan, there is nothing right now, which means you shouldn't panic because it is only the 4th of June. But if Arsenal have got no outs or ins sorted by the Euros, and I mean both of those, I'll be looking more at the outs more than the ins by the Euros anyway, but I would be a little bit worried at how slow things are moving. There's a couple of weeks. There's just, I think, 9 days left until the Euros start. If Arsenal haven't moved on some of their players by then, I would be a bit concerned. But we'll wait and see how things go. AB says Inter Miami were fined $2 million because they broke some kind of player salary cap. They won't be buying Willian. It doesn't necessarily mean they won't be buying anyone, AB. The reason why they got that fine was because they basically had too many players over their salary cap and they put Blaise Matuidi in like the wrong category. And so they were fined that amount of money. They've also had to send one of their players that's over the salary threshold down to Fort Lauderdale FC. I can't remember the player's name, but he's gone off to Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, it's not great for them right now. They didn't have, I think they got into the playoffs last summer or last season, but they need to improve a lot into Miami. But they are a new team, as are the likes of Austin FC that have joined this season. Danny Pereira, of course, who I interviewed for 101, doing his bits over there. And best of luck to them next season. But it doesn't mean that Willian's not going to go into Miami, so that's not affected. Surai says, be honest, Tom, how many players can we realistically expect to be moved on and signed before the Euros? Signed, 0. I'd be very surprised if we brought anyone in before the Euros, unless it was Matt Ryan. He's the only one that I'd be looking at that's going to get done before the Euros. Regarding players out, I think you could get 2. I think you could probably move on to, be that a Guendouzi, be that a Granit Xhaka. We've seen links to Kolasinac elsewhere. Maybe he goes. I'd be looking at maybe one in, and that one probably being a more lower end kind of player in a Matt Ryan, and then the outs being more so your Guendouzis, your Granit Xhakas. So that's what I'd be expecting in the next 9 days. If anything big happens, it would be the Buendia situation. But I think that's one that's going to rumble on because of the whole international football that's going on. Loads of players are away on holiday or they are away on international duty, which will slow things down a lot. So just, stay tuned, stay in the loop, and we'll keep persisting. We'll keep trundling on in regards to Arsenal transfers. Arsenal should sign Luis Campos, says Dilip. I agree with you. Or Luis Campos. Jose says, what do you think about Onana to Arsenal? We did a tactical breakdown on Onana yesterday, so if you want to find out my thoughts on that, you can go and watch our dedicated video on him. It is on the channel. Yonic Mac, good old Yonic's back in the chat. It's been a while, Yonic. Good to have you back, son. I hope you've changed your ways. I'll take the Guendouzi L to get the Xhaka W, he says. Sai says, we'll ship Kolasinac to Madagascar if he persists on a stay. That is a hell of a long way to send a player. I'm not sure if Madagascar have a league. I'd love to know if they do. It'd be great if Madagascar do have a football league. I'll have to look into that. That piques my interest. Matt Thornton says, we need minimum of 3 to 4 players. Just Grealish doesn't make us finish in the top 4, but 3 to 4 players that improve the first 11 does. Each to their own, mate. I'm not turning my nose up at Grealish. To be honest, Matt, I'm in agreement with you. I think that just signing Jack Grealish is nowhere near enough for what Arsenal need. I'd rather sign 3 players around the 20 to 30 million pound mark that improve 3 positions in the team than going out to sign Jack Grealish. If you sign a Buendia, a Bissouma, a Zeki Celik, that adds up for probably about the same fee that you're going to end up paying for a Jack Grealish. And I think bringing in those 3, a Buendia, a Bissouma, and a Zeki Celik, that all of those, for me anyway, would certainly improve Arsenal a hell of a lot more than just bringing in Jack Grealish for me. Madagascar do apparently have a league. That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. GGTV for you says, do you think Todd Cantwell could hold down the midfield for us with a Xhaka replacement? No, I mean, I look at Todd Cantwell very much more as kind of a more attacking kind of player than a Granit Xhaka. So I don't think so. Jashar says, Tom, hopefully Torreira has a good copper to drum up interest for him. Definitely so. If obviously we don't know what's really going on with the Copa America, it's now been held in Brazil. Who's going to play because of the whole pandemic situation? We'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of issues going on with that at the moment. Thanks, Wilson. Much appreciate that. Really, really do. Dilip says, will Frank Thomas be a good manager at Arsenal? Is Arteta getting fired? Who? What? What's going on? James T says, Grealish wouldn't join us even for 300k a week. Get real and stop thinking he'd join us, guys. Jazz Meat says, with Xhaka looking to be out, going for a defensive aggressors like Buendia, we're heading in a paradigm shift in the way that we'll play next season. Arsenal, here comes the Gegen pressing. Benji says, whatever happened to Ismail Sarr from Watford? He was really good last time in the Premier League. He was actually linked with a move to Liverpool at one point. They ended up going for Diogo Jota, I believe, instead over him. But they've been promoted, so Watford will be in the Premier League next season, so they aren't forced into selling Ismail Sarr if they want to sell him. I very much doubt that will be the case. Dan says, Tom, did you hear about the hearing of Onana? Because I haven't heard anything about the hearing. The hearing took place yesterday or the day before, but we aren't likely to hear the result for a good few more days. So just hold fire and be patient on that one. Arjan says, we need some more experienced players and leaders. Our captain changes every single match. Agreed, mate. Kenny says, Tom, what do you think about Madueke of PSV? We need competition for Saka and Pepe. Madueke, of course, who English-born, I believe, but has spent a lot of time at PSV and can represent the Netherlands. I'm not sure if he's actually been called up already for the Euro squad. Let's have a look and see if he has been, or if he's in like the what's it called, the preliminary team. I don't see it. I think he is in the under 21s maybe, but he said that he'd always be open to representing the Netherlands. So, but I don't know. I haven't seen too much of him, to be honest. And I think he's still quite raw and still needs a lot of developing, but haven't heard loads about Madueke beyond just a couple of reports here and there about him developing into a decent player. Oh, Thomas Frank from Brentford. Oh, yes, there we go. I was like, what? What are you on about, Dilip? I mean, we're not changing managers right now, so managers aren't really the main focus, but we'll see how he gets on with Brentford in the Premier League next season. Wilson says, which player do I prefer? I mean, if regardless of price, I'd go for Aarons, but I think because you consider that Zeki Celik is more than half the price of Aarons and he's still so good, I would definitely go for the Turkish international, to be honest. Eddie says, Grealish is more important than all three that you named. The respect for Arsenal will grow. I disagree, but fair enough, mate. Pranjal says, Sterling would want Europe. No chance of him coming here. Of course, some very strange links that came out from Manchester City wanting to let him leave, Sterling and Riyad Mahrez. Whether or not that means Arsenal would be interested, they apparently were, according to some reports. But it would take a hell of a lot of convincing to convince either of those two, I think, to come to Arsenal in the situation that the club finds themselves in. Pratima says, I would go for Daniel Farke, the German coach, to the UCL champion. Daniel Farke is doing a fantastic job at Norwich. Although he got them relegated, he's got them straight back up to the Premier League, which is a more difficult job than people give credit for. And we'll see how they get on in the Premier League next season. Manu says, why is Celik this cheap? That's bad business on their part. Mainly because of contract length, mainly because of the situation the French league finds itself in with the whole media pro situation. So yeah, I imagine that is a huge reason as to why. So all of those factors are why he is that price at the moment. Jasmine says that means Sterling's camp is looking for a better contract at City. It very much could do. That is always something that is used as a bargaining chip, as a negotiating tool. Jose says Moussa Dembele and Aouar to Arsenal is who is more needed. Moussa Dembele, the striker Moussa Dembele. I mean, I'd rather Aouar than him, and it takes a lot for me to say I'd rather have Aouar than a lot of our targets. But Yeah, not for me. Moussa Dembele, absolutely no chance. Arsenic Gunner says, Tom, what about the American coach at Salzburg? Is he there yet? Jesse Marsch is already going to be RB Leipzig's coach next season. He's already confirmed to take over from Julian Nagelsmann. So he will not be coming to Arsenal, I'm afraid. Zach Stacey says, reports are saying that Bernardo Silva is unhappy at his bit part role. If City are selling players, surely he'd make more sense than Sterling. I agree. He's a versatile player that can play on the right-hand side, play at number 10. Would love to see Bernardo Silva at Arsenal, but again, I don't think it's very realistic. No Sleep says, so is there a league fire sale? Possibly so, depending on their situation with the TV rights. That may have a big impact on how they sell players this summer. I imagine that Lille are going to see a lot of players like Zeki Celik, like Sven Botman, like Bamba, like maybe even the likes of Renato Sanchez, Jonathan David. All of these guys could be going in the summer, and Lille do make a fine profit on players despite Luis Campos not being there anymore. Chris says, what do you think of Conte possibly becoming the Spurs coach? It's a very difficult one to kind of analyze because you don't know how he's going to get on. Mourinho was someone everyone thought was going to transform Spurs. He didn't. Just because Conte has succeeded at Inter Milan and places like that doesn't mean it would translate immediately to Spurs. But to say I'm not worried would be a lie. I certainly am. He's a very, very good coach and he should do well there. And it is, as I tweeted out, I felt like us not moving for Conte could be that Guardiola moment or the Klopp moment that we missed out on previously. I hope it isn't. I know he's a much more short-term manager than those guys, but it does worry me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. Football London announced that Arsenal bid 10 million. Yeah, I doubt that is the case. I very, very much doubt that is true. Noel says, we really shouldn't be looking at players like Sterling or Mahrez. Sounds crazy, but I don't think we need a statement signing as much. Celik, Basuma, Lokonga, Buendia, etc. should be the route. And I do agree with you, Noel. I 100% agree with we should be looking to improve and upgrade multiple positions with players that have got a big ceiling. That is certainly where I think that we should be going for, rather than your Sterlings and your Mahrezes. Not to say I wouldn't take a Sterling. I think a Sterling at 26 is certainly someone that will upgrade the squad. But I think there's more pressing matter in the centre midfield, in the right back position, arguably at centre back, back up left back, back up goalkeeper in general. There's lots of positions before you look at maybe a wide player for us. Jashar says, what are your thoughts on Yokuslu? He is obviously the player that joined West Brom from Celta Vigo, Turkish international. I don't think he's any better than what we've got, is what I would say on that one. Ivan says, give Arteta credit. He dropped a masterclass and did the double over Chelsea. It's the only thing that we can kind of really look at this season going, yay, that's what happens. Yeah, in my mind, he didn't do enough to keep the Arsenal job, but he's still in, so we got to back him. Arsenal Gunner says, Tom, it's the same. We shouldn't be impressed by these bare minimum stuff that our club pretends to take, and I'm not impressed. Absolutely. Dilip says, will you be doing a watch along with Hugh next season? I imagine so. I think Hugh's taking a bit of a break from stuff right now, but yeah, no, we're all good, and I look forward to joining up with him soon for some exciting stuff. Fingers crossed. Rahil, one of our fantastic members, says, if we don't end up getting Buendia, who would you go for as a second option? It's a good question. It's a tough question. The thing with Buendia is that he's so different because he can play on the right-hand side and play at that number 10 role. It's really hard to find someone that adds that level of versatility for us of the players that we've been linked to. I'm not sure Aouar is the right guy for Arsenal, and trying to find attacking midfielders that are really going to make a difference. A lot of people like Mateus Pereira from West Brom and how he did so well. I've got reservations about him because of the way that he struggled. Some people have said that we should be going for Hakan Çalhanoğlu, the Turkish international. He could be a cheap deal to get done in the summer as well. Beyond Buendia, there isn't loads. I'd love to see Arsenal go out and sign like a Mikel Oyarzabal from Real Sociedad, but again, I think that's too expensive for what Arsenal are looking for. I'd love Arsenal to go and sign a Fabian Ruiz, but he's again more of an 8 than an out-and-out number 10, although I believe he could play there. It's really tough to try and think of players. I'm pretty sure, though, let me consult my article. I literally wrote Nabil Fekir is another player that you could arguably look at as well as someone that you could bring in. I'm sure I wrote an article on alternatives to Erdegaard. Double check. If I haven't, I definitely need to, because it sounds like one that if Arsenal don't get, here we go. So 4 players Arsenal should sign if they can't get Martin Erdegaard. Let me throw this up on the screen for you. Oh my God, the picture is Dybala. So I was pretty optimistic back then, but let's have a look. Let me throw this up on the screen for you, and you can see if you agree with my choices that I wrote. I don't know when I wrote this article. I wrote this in March 31st. So less than 2 months ago, just over 2 months ago now. So I said Nabil Fekir as an option, Paulo Dybala as a more of a marquee kind of signing, Florian Neuhaus from Borussia Mönchengladbach, and who's the last one? Marcel Sabitzer was the other one, or Sabitzer. Was the 4 that I suggested that Arsenal could look to maybe move for in the window. So that's who I thought at the end of March. Ironic that I didn't even put Buendia on this list. He certainly would have been number 5. Must have had a bit of a brain fart there. But yeah, Nabil Fekir, Paulo Dybala, Florian Neuhaus, and Marcel Sabitzer were the players that I suggested back in March. So maybe they're the ones that maybe we should be looking to go for. Why am I so dark all of a sudden? Has it always been this dark? I swear. There we go. That's a bit better. Oh, I'm so dark on the screen today. Joe Matthews says Erdegaard isn't going to happen. Ancelotti will want to keep him at Real Madrid. Gary Mullen says, Tom, how did you get started in sports journalism? Was it something you were interested in before YouTube? It's a good question. Gary, I did a lot of talking about this on the last Friday show. It is Friday, of course, which means at 5 o'clock I will be doing the usual hour-long Q&A show. So make sure you tune in at 5 p.m. UK time for our Q&A show where you can ask me stuff like this. But basically, I was a teacher before, quit teaching because it's awful, and then went straight into football journalism, writing for 101, and have done since September. And yeah, it's just kind of everything's kicked on from there. So I went in after YouTube. I've done YouTube for like 5 years, so it came after that. That is certainly the one that we went. Yeah, I went in afterwards. So there you go. But as I said, I'll be talking a lot more about that sort of stuff on the Q&A show at 5 p.m. So make sure you tune in this afternoon. Tim says, we need leaders in our own team, young and winning mentality players. Definitely so. Delete says, saw that episode of Hugh and you were debating on buying merchandise. I hope you guys settle it. Enjoy both of you. Oh, no, we're fine. Like, we're absolutely fine. There's nothing. We were just having a good debate about merchandise and stuff. No, we're fine. You can have a debate with mates. It doesn't end in you falling out. We're absolutely fine. He uploaded the separate video. Like, if we weren't fine, that wouldn't have happened. So no, me and Hugh are absolutely fine. I bantered him about it the next day with the tweet that I put out. So no, we're all good, mate. Zach Stacey says Sabitzer would be a shout, would be on his last year, and suggestions he cost about 30 million, works hard and he's a captain. I thought he gave England a lot of problems when he was playing for Austria the other day. Smash the like, Suraj. Thank you ever so much for the support, and that is probably where we're going to finish things off. So thank you ever so much, everyone that's tuned in today. There's been over 1,000 of you tuning in live at times, which is absolutely insane. You guys have really made this morning show part of your routine, which I appreciate. As always, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. But there's 2 more shows for you today. You've got the Mazraoui tactical breakdown, which will be coming out around midday-ish, and then our typical Q&A Friday show as well, where also we'll be revealing which one of our members has got the tickets into the football prizes draw as well. So make sure you tune in for that. As always, I'll see you again very soon. Drop a like and subscription if you've enjoyed it, and join up as a member if you want to help support the channel. You can follow us on Twitter at the Gooner Talk TV. But as always, up the Arsenal.